Hey, it's recording, right? Yeah, okay, it's recording. So, I asked you guys in my vlog if I should do this, read a chapter of a book. So, I did. And I got a reply from, I believe, 2 people that said I should do it, so why not? So, the book I'm going to read is called Evermore. It is by Alison Noel, and it's an amazing book. So why don't we jump into it? Look at me. Just so I don't get copyrighted. I don't know what you're looking at right now. Guess who? Guess who? Haven's warm, clammy palms press hard against my cheeks. As the tarnished edge of her silver skull ring leaves a smudge on my skin, and even though my eyes are covered and closed, I know that her dyed black hair is parted in the middle. Her black vinyl corset is worn over a turtleneck, keeping a complaints with our school's dress code policy. Her brand new floor-sweeping black satin skirt already has a hole near the hem where she caught it with the toe of her Doc Martens boots, and her eyes appear gold, but that's only because she's wearing yellow contacts. I also know her dad isn't really away on business like he said. Her mom's personal trainer is way more personal than trainer. And her little brother broke her Evacine CD, but he's too afraid to tell her. But I don't know any of this from spying or peeking or even being told. I know because I'm sidekick. Hurry! Guess, the bell's gonna ring, she says, her voice hoarse, raspy, like she smokes a pack a day, even though she only tried smoking once. I stall, thinking of the last person she'd ever want to be mistaken for. Is it Hilary Duff? Ew, guess again. She presses tighter, having no idea that I don't have to see to know. Is it Miss Marilyn Mason? She laughs and lets go, licking her thumb and aiming for the tarnished tattoo she left on my cheek. But I raise my hand and beat her to it, not because I'm grossed out by the thought of her saliva. I mean, I know she's healthy, but because I don't want her to touch me again. Touch is too revealing, too exhausting, so I try to avoid it at all costs. She grabs the hood of my sweatshirt and flicks it off my head, then squints at my earbud and asks, "What are you listening to?" I reach inside the iPod pocket I've switched into all of my hoodies, concealing the acquaintance white cords from faculty view. Then I hand it over and watch her eyes bug out when she says, "What the? I mean, it can't be any louder. And who is that?" She dangles the iPod between us so we can both hear Sid Vicious screaming about archery in the UK. And the truth is, I don't know if Sid's for it or against it. I just know that he's almost loud enough to dull my overly hindsighted senses. Sex Pistols? Sex Pistols, I say, clicking it off and returning it to my secret compartment. I'm surprised you could even hear me. She smiles at the same time the bell rings. I just shrug. I don't need to listen to hear, though it's not like I mentioned that. I just tell her I'll see her at lunch and head towards class, making my way across campus and cringing when I sense these 2 guys sneaking up behind her, stepping on the hems of her skirt, and almost making her fall. But when she turns and makes the sign of evil, okay, it's not really a sign of evil, it's just something she made up, and glares at them, with her yellow eyes, they immediately back off and leave her alone. And I breathe a sigh of relief as I push into class, knowing it won't be long before the lingering energy of Haven's touch fade. I head toward my seat in the back, avoiding the purse Stacy Miller has purposely placed in my path, while ignoring her daily serenade of "loser," she croons under her breath. Then I slide into my chair, retrieving my notebook, and pen from my bag. Insert my earpiece, pull my hood back over my head, drop my backpack on the empty seat beside me, and wait for Mr. Robinson's to show. Mr. Robinson's is always late, mostly because he likes to take a few nips from his small silver flask between classes. But that's only because his wife yells at him all the time. His daughter thinks he's a loser, and he pretty much hates his life. I learned all of that on my first day at this school, when my hand accidentally touched his as I gave him a transfer slip. So now, whenever I need to turn something in, I just leave it on the edge of his desk. I close my eyes and wait, my fingers creeping inside my sweatshirt, switching the song from Screaming Sid Vicious to something softer, smoother. All that loud noise is no longer necessary. Now that I'm in class, I guess the small student/teacher ratio keeps the psychic energy somewhat contained. I wasn't always a freak. I used to be a normal teen, the kind who went to school dances, had celebrity crushes, and was so vain about my long blonde hair. I wouldn't dream of scrapping it into a ponytail and hiding beneath a big hooded sweater. I had a mom, a dad, a little sister named Riley, and a sweet yellow lab named Buttercup. I lived in a nice house in a good neighborhood in Eugene, Oregon. I was popular, happy, and could hardly wait for junior year to begin, since I'd just made Varsity cheerleader. My life was complete, and the sky was the limit. Even though the last part is totally cliche, it's almost ironically true. Yet all of that's just hearsay as far as I'm concerned, because ever since the accident, the only thing I can clearly remember is dying. I had what they called an NDE, or near-death experience. Only they happened to be wrong, because believe me, there wasn't anything near about it. It's like one moment my little sister Riley and I were sitting in the back seat of my dad's SUV, with Buttercup's head resting on Riley's lap, while his tail thumped softly against my leg, and the next thing I knew, all the airbags were blown, the car was totaled, and I was observing it all from outside. I gazed at the wreckage, the shattered glass, the crumbled doors, the front bumper clutching a pine tree in a lethal embrace, wondering what went wrong as I hoped and prayed everyone had gotten out too. Then I heard a familiar bark, and turned to see them all wandering down a path, with Buttercup wagging her tail and leading the way. I went after them, at first trying to run and catch up, but then slowing and choosing to linger, wanting to wander through that vast, fragrant field of pulsating trees and flowers that shivered, closing my eyes against the dazzling mist that reflected and glowed and made everything shimmer. I promised myself I'd only be a moment. That soon, I'd go back and find them, but when I finally looked, it was just in time to catch a quick glimpse of them smiling and waving, and crossing a bridge, mere seconds before they all vanished. I panicked. I looked everywhere, running this way and that, but it all looked the same. Warm, white, glistening, shimmering, beautiful, stupid, eternal mist. And I fell to the ground, My skin pricked with cold. My whole body twitched, crying, screaming, cursing, begging, making promises I knew I could never ever keep. And then I heard someone say, "Ever? Is that your name? Open your eyes and look at me." I stumbled back to the surface, back to where everything was pain and misery, and stinging wet hurt all on my forehead. And I gazed at the guy leaning over me, looked into his dark eyes, and whispered, "I'm Ever," before passing out again.